This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace.
Welcome everyone back to another episode of Saturday Morning Mysteries. We're your hosts. I'm Grace.
I'm Alexis.
And I'm right.
Grace is perpetually right.
Want to tell them why?
My goodness, how much does she love that? Why? Why is Grace right? Well, one of thousands of reasons why
shucks.
Grace is right. A couple weeks back, you all probably heard us discussing dragons on this podcast, or I hope you did. I hope you listened to that episode. If you didn't finish this episode, then go back to the Spring Break of 76 episode, and then come right back here and listen to how great Rice is and her knowledge of dragon lore and dragon history. In that episode, I questioned whether the ancient Aztecs, worship dragons. I thought, oh no, surely they had more important things on their hands. But no, Grace, she schooled me and she said that dragon lore, it's traveled over many ancient civilizations. I'll admit you weren't sure which civilization, but you mentioned that it possibly was the Aztecs who worshipped Quetzalcoatl. I looked it up after we recorded that episode. As per usual, Grace was right. So I look like a fool, an uncultured swine who knows nothing of dragons. Also, I feel like a poser because I have a dragon sitting here right behind me. So I feel like I don't even deserve.
Wait, let's see it. Bring it to the camera. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm so sorry. Oh,
it's the Syrian.
Wow.
This was given to me by a good friend of both of ours. The lady who happened to do our logo designs.
Oh my God, Jenna Kendall!
With the egg.
Oh.
It used to be connected, but I'm very clumsy and broke it, unfortunately. So now I just like to set it up like Viserion is protecting his egg.
Wow. Did you know I never finished watching Game of Thrones, but I've read it all.
Oh, well,
which is more impressive.
That's way more impressive.
Thank you.
You've read all that there is to read.
Yes. Thank you. Give me some credit.
Yeah, no, that's actually super impressive. I watched it all. And I actually did not even start watching it until maybe like around season 6 or so when season 6 came out. I didn't like start at season 6.
Oh, yeah.
That was like the year that I started watching
that's what I thought. I definitely thought that's what you meant, that you just like showed up at season 6 and was like, I'm here now. And I was like, wow.
Confusing that would be.
Actually, that's more impressive.
Yeah, right. And then to like still understand what's going on. But no, yeah, I love that show. But that's actually, that's way more impressive that you've read the books. I'm sure that you would probably love to hear. Pretty sure I read recently that George R.R. Martin is, he's writing he's like working with either Marvel or DC to work on a comic book. And everyone's like, what the fuck, dude? Finish the Game of Thrones books, the Song of Fire and Ice books. What are you doing?
Yeah, so here are my couple hot takes. One, even more impressive than me reading them, is that I still have avoided all spoilers to how they finished the show, which is far more impressive. So if someone's thinking right now, like, I'm going to be funny and put a comment that has a spoiler, I'm not going to read it.
So, yes. But anyway, all of this is to say that Grace is a dragon aficionado. She knows a lot about knights. She knows about dragons, all that ancient. Medieval. I guess dragons aren't really medieval.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
Whatever. Penetrating time in memoriam, etc., etc.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say the division of knowledge between us is I would call you the expert, Alexis, in the world of comic books, all things comic books. Like, that is your world, and I know negative amount of it. And then mine would be like the fantasy world, which is mainly what I read and am engrossed in. So
you were always very into like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, all of that. And
it's only gotten worse as I've grown up.
I love all of those movies and whatnot. Meanwhile, I'm reading like Doctor Strange comics and
and I'm like, I've seen the
Justice League, Teen Titans comics
trailer for those movies.
I'm like, they're great movies. They are very good movies too. Comics are awesome as well. But so we bring this nerd knowledge together and a shared love for classic animation to thus create this wonderful podcast and vodcast for y'all.
Yes. And speaking of, what a great transition point you laid out for us of other cartoons, perhaps. And we've been, as you've been sticking with us, we've been doing Scooby-Doo. We both really love Scooby-Doo. It's obviously such a great connection between that and like the world of crime, because it's literally just solving mysteries. And you've heard us say multiple times that we will be doing other cartoons. Today is not that day yet, so don't either, if you're panicking that we're not doing
next week also won't be that day.
Yeah, we have 3 more Scooby-Doo episodes, including this one. One day we'll probably come back to Scooby-Doo. There's so much Scooby-Doo to cover. As of recording this episode, we have not decided what show we're going to do next. But
a new show is on the horizon. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So look out for that. We'll obviously still talk about Scooby and the gang. We'll come back to it one day. But yeah, there's so many other cartoons out there that we can look at through a true crime lens that we're gonna explore a little bit.
Yeah. And as always, if you stick around in our episodes long enough to hear our outro, you can always send us an email as we express there. You can send us an email with any show recommendations, or if there's any show in particular you want to hear us chat about, whether it's like a full episode or for bonus content. So shoot us an email, give us some more ideas. Mm-hmm. We've got some ideas kind of rolling around in our mind about what we may pick next, but we're always happy to get more suggestions from y'all.
And what's the email for that?
The email. Why would I tell them?
Find it yourselves. The outro.
The email is SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com. So just our name @gmail.com.
And do not send Game of Thrones spoilers into it.
If they do, I'll filter them out before you can get to them.
I'm going to just set a filter onto our email that like marks it as spam if they use any certain keywords.
Game of Thrones being one of them, or George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, I'm going to name all the characters. And then like, because I'm mad that someone would think of sending a spoiler, I'm going to be like, I read the books Brat, and then like add in extra character names that didn't make it into the show, and no one will know but me. But like, I'll be shoving it to the people who want to spoil shit for me. So yeah, not bitter or anything.
Spoilers.
But if you're not trying to ruin things and to be a horrible person, which I assume you're not because you're listening to this podcast, so you're probably great /podcast.
Yeah. You're at least moderate. You're mildly good if you're listening to this, I assume.
I mean, like samesies, I get it. Send in some show ideas, because we're gonna be moving through. We haven't even figured out totally how long we'll spend on each show. But no rules here, so we'll do what we feel like, as usual.
We make our own rules, we break our own rules.
Be prepared for that too. We'll set a single rule for we'll like, okay, we're gonna do this many episodes for this show, and then
we'll do like 2.
We're like 200.
All right, we're moving on.
We'll see.
We'll never do another show again.
Yep, this is it. Okay, well, look forward to that, and right now look forward to Alexis telling us a story from Scooby-Doo.
Today I'm going to tell you about, honestly, what I believe to be probably one of the most iconic episodes of the entire Scooby-Doo franchise. Yeah.
It feels like fighting words.
Doesn't it? It does. I think you might agree with me by the time I explain why.
Okay.
But we'll see.
I'm nervous.
The episode I'm going to talk about today is called The Gruesome Game of the Gator Ghoul. And this is from the Scooby-Doo show season 1. It's episode 3, again, coming out in 1976 on ABC. And why is this episode iconic? You may ask. Why am I making such a big, bold
iconic claim? I am asking.
Why? You are asking. I shall answer. It's iconic because the episode actually introduces the audience to a family member of Scooby-Doo's that they actually like. Not Scrappy, but Scooby-Dumb.
Yeah.
Do you remember Scooby-Dumb?
Yes. Even how they drew Scooby-Dumb.
I know. It's literally, he's gray, but otherwise he's identical to Scooby-Doo. He wears a red cap and red cap and has like big buck teeth because he lives in the middle of the Hokeefenokee Swamp with his owners, Ma and Pa Skillet. So they kind of make him look like country-ish a little bit.
Wait, really quick.
Yes.
The Hokeefenokee Swamp.
I was
that's
about
what's
to
called?
get yes.
Okay, wait, you're gonna get there.
Well, yeah. As per usual, we're reading each other's minds. It's based on the real life Hokeefenokee Swamp on the Florida Georgia border.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, that's what I thought. Yep.
Yeah. And so, little background. Actually, so this is a real life swamp. That another reason why the episode is iconic, if you ask me, because I love it when Scooby-Doo brings in like real life kind of stuff and just like you change one letter and then you have like a whole fictional wetland now. Just put an H in front of it. Kind of similar to like the Moctezuma thing. Like, oh yeah, Moctezuma was a real dude. Let's just change his name to Catazuma and then boom. Now it exists in the Scooby-Doo universe as well. So yes, in this episode, they're in the Hokeefenokee Swamp, which again, a parody of the real world Hokeefenokee Swamp, which actually the largest blackwater swamp in North America. Honestly, Grace, I was writing this stuff down. I was like, Grace probably already knows this stuff. She knows about like all environmental protection things and
But tell our listeners more.
But so yes, Grace knows this, but listeners, you may not. So the Hokeefenokee Swamp, it's one of the 7 natural wonders of Georgia. So it is that beautiful, apparently, even though it is also like all black water and like very murky and dark water. But it's also like a national landmark. It's a wildlife refuge. So it's actually very well protected. Well, maybe until very recent years when new mining operations were allowed to be initiated there. But nonetheless, so this is actually like a very famous kind of geographic point in the United States South. And it is also home, as I mentioned, at least in the Scooby-Doo universe, to Scooby-Dum and his 2 owners, Ma and Pa Skillet.
Wow. And so Skillet, even the last name.
Another reason why this episode is iconic, because for folks who watched it when it first aired, which was definitely not me and Grace, because we were not younger.
Born.
We were not born yet. But for people who did watch it, they probably heard the Skillet name and kind of thought, that reminds me of a very famous fictional or somewhat fictional couple that was very prominent on film and in TV back in the 40s and 50s. The Kettle family. Ma and Pa Kettle were it was a couple that was depicted in a 1945 book called The Egg and I by a woman named Betty McDonald. They were originally farmers in like Olympia, Washington, and they kept going through like these kind of like fish out of water situations where you like throw these like hillbilly farmers with a bunch of kids into like New York City or like take them to Europe and see what happens. And so it became like this very popular comedy film series. And I guess the writers of Scooby-Doo really liked those movies. So they're like, hey, let's make fun of or like make a parody of the Kettles in Ma and Pa Skillet.
Okay, I will say so far the naming situation, this is like the most in-depth they've thought a whole situation through.
Yeah, it's not just like, I mean, it kind of is punny because as you'll see, the Skillets own a restaurant.
God damn it. All right, I take back my compliment.
They couldn't stop there, but it is still cool how they like tie in those pop culture references from yesteryear. And so aside from the Skillets actually owning a restaurant, there is one other big difference between them and the Kettles in the real life book in the movies. And that is that the Skillets do not have any children, unfortunately, although they always dreamt of having them. And that will become an important point of, information in today's episode. So the Skillets, I mentioned, they own a restaurant and they're very famous throughout the state of Georgia for one, some spicy fritters that they make, and two, for what is called a Fenokee Fizz soda. And the reason Fenokee Fizz is so popular is because it complements the fritters very well, because they're super spicy, so it keeps you from like blowing up your stomach essentially from the spiciness of these fritters. So
I would eat this meal.
I would too. It sounds really good. I love fritters and I like soda. I mean, why not? So they're very popular around the state of Georgia for this. They're pretty famous, the Skillet family, for these culinary creations. But unfortunately, recent hauntings by the mysterious and frightening ghost of the Gator Ghoul have led to a very sharp decline in foot traffic. Cue more like creepy
organ music
in the background. And so on the brink of financial ruin, Ma and Pa Skillet, they decide to give a call to Scooby-Dum's cousin, Scooby-Doo, to help end all of these hauntings and try to save the restaurant.
Can I ask a question?
Please do, because that's actually the perfect segue.
Are Ma and Pa Skillet humans?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really describe their appearance. What did you think they were?
I wasn't Gators? Sure if like, no, they were other Great Danes running. Like there's this different scenarios in my head of like this Great Dane family making delicious, like an early Ratatouille situation, like making this delicious food.
That's fair.
Okay, that could be a weird situation. Or is it a more weird situation that the humans were like, let's call this dog's cousin?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, so yeah, I'm sure they didn't actually call Scooby. They probably called Fred or Shaggy and were like, hey, are you guys free? But I just thought it would be cute to write it that way. Damn it, Grace. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. So call me out.
I just needed to picture what was happening.
Yes. And you're right. I should have described them because in the Scooby-Doo world, anything can happen. Anything's game. Like it could be. I'm pretty sure there are episodes where you see like an entire family of Great Danes like running a household at one point. So in some incarnation of Scooby-Doo.
That's my confusion.
So, totally fair. I'll give you that. Should have thrown in a description. Yes, they are human. And I guess I'll just very briefly say Ma and Pa. Ma's a little bit taller than Pa. Pa's like bald on the top. He's got hair on the sides. Ma's a little bit like frumpier, but both very just lovely looking, adorable older folks. Not really, they don't look like country bumpkins or like hillbillies really at all. They just kind of look more like matronly and like, I don't know, like more like suburban old folks. Yeah. So, but nonetheless, they live in the middle of the swamp, and they call Mystery Inc. up because, quite frankly, I guess they need like small business restoration services because they have this sharp decline in foot traffic. And this is right where the episode begins.
Ooh.
It's a dark and a foggy night, and the kids, they're driving to visit the Showboat restaurant, obviously located deep within the Hokeefenokee Swamp. And as they're going through the directions that were given to them to reach the restaurant, they approach a proceed at your own risk sign.
Oh.
But this warning is no match for the gang who has, and I quote you literally, they have just passed an abandoned grist mill, a cemetery, and a snake farm. So they are clearly on the best possible path.
Also,
their destination.
No wonder there's no foot traffic. Like who
drives?
Don't go that way.
Like, yes, let me go to this quaint little restaurant after passing all of these horrifying landmarks. Yeah, no big deal. And also like in the middle of the swamp too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they're following these directions, and as they're driving to the restaurant, they keep seeing like these bright headlights, but it's not from a car. They don't know what it's from, but these lights keep shining into the mystery machine. And Velma is like trying to calm everyone down. Obviously, she's such a genius. She's like, it's just moon shining through the trees, or an opening in the trees, you guys. Calm down. We're fine. But as they keep driving, the lights are like flashing on and off of them. And eventually they see the lights behind them. But as they turn around and look this time, they see that the lights are coming from the face of a humanoid alligator. So it's essentially an alligator standing on two legs with super jacked biceps. Classic. And it's just like growling at them in the distance with these bright yellow headlights just shining right on them. And so they're like, okay, I'm going to guess that's the Gator Ghoul that the Skillets called us about. Time to continue our way to the restaurant so we can figure out what the hell is going on here and help them out.
That would be literally so terrifying.
Wouldn't that be? And again, there's another reason why I think this episode is so iconic, because the monster is actually, like, if it were real, would be very, very terrifying. And it's not like some weird random, clowns are scary too. I was going to say, it's not like a weird random clown or something, but like an anthropomorphic, is that the word?
Yeah.
Alligator.
Yeah, and like the setting, it's not like there's an alligator man walking down the streets of Chicago. You'd be like, what a weird costume, you nerd.
What
but
are
like
you doing?
You're in a dark swamp where there's a snake farm. I can't get over the snake farm for some reason.
Yeah, I know,
there's
right?
A snake farm, there's like caution signs, there's abandoned everything. Like,
yeah, cemeteries, like
it's
run down. It's very, very dark and foggy.
Yeah.
Like fog is coming up to like halfway up the mystery machine. Like they're just driving through this super dense thick fog. Yeah.
Even
over
if
a swamp.
if I was driving through that scenario and I even saw like a human, I would be like, axe murderer, keep going. No less. No less an alligator man. Okay.
Yeah. So already not off to a very not off to a good start. At least it's definitely off to a frightening start. Yes. Let's put it that way. Yes. So yeah, they're like, let's hurry up and get to the skillets because we now have proof that something is definitely out here scaring folks away. And they get to the Showboat restaurant and they're immediately greeted by Scooby-Dum. It's very cute. He and Scooby have this like trademark handshake that they do. Watch the episode. Handshake. Yeah, it's so adorable. Dogs can shake. Dogs have hands and they can shake them.
Boom, baby.
And so Pa and Ma start to tell the teens, well, first off, they're very grateful for them being there. They're like so happy because they admit that they're about to like totally be shut out of business if they don't get any new customers in a week. And Pa says that he believes business is low because the Gator Ghoul is scaring folks away, which the teens can like attest to. They're like, yeah, we just saw that, dude. I don't want to be coming around here if you weren't paying us either. So Ma and Pa then take the teens down to the Fenokee Fizz bottling warehouse, I guess, because they want them to like, have an understanding of all the areas that they're going to be investigating. And they just want to like show them around. And Pa is like obviously very sad about like all of the wasted materials throughout this warehouse. He's saying, we haven't made a bottle or sent any trucks of this soda out in over a month because as soon as the Gator Ghoul showed up, all of our workers and our distributors just like fled. Like they were out. They were not going to deal with it. So yeah, it is really sad. Like you have this old, adorable couple. Yeah. And again, why it's iconic because it kind of like a lot of like real life kind of like hardships that we're seeing. Like, small businesses actually do sometimes have trouble like bringing in customers and like you have to do whatever you can do to get your foot traffic back. Now, is it a ghost or like a humanoid alligator that's driving people away? No, not typically, but it could be crime in the area. It could be a number of things. So again, like real life problems that the gang is coming in to really help these folks out with. And so Fred is like, all right, we've seen all we need to see from you guys. Like, we're going to keep our eyes open. We're going to start investigating. And they invite Scooby-Dum to come with them. And something I did not mention about Scooby-Dum earlier is that apparently he like dreams of one day becoming a police dog or like a detective. So so even though he's really not the sharpest tool in the shed, as his name suggests, he's still like super courageous, like very, very brave and is very eager and excited to join the teens as they're investigating this. And so while they're looking through the warehouse or the bottling factory, whatever, the Gator Ghoul actually appears because he's been lurking around the property, obviously, and he's trying to scare away anyone new who comes into the area. But the ghoul is no match for the dim wits of Scooby-Dum. So what does that say about the gator? I don't know. But Scooby-Dum is able to like chase him out of the factory, get them to a point of safety for a little bit. The gang is able to recollect themselves and whatnot. And as they're like freaking out about just, having been chased by the Gator Ghoul, they notice a bright yellow light. So more bright yellow lights and an ominous shadow approaching around the corner. And so they're thinking, oh my God, the Gator Ghoul is back. Oh my God, he's going to kill us. So Scooby-Doo, he's like, well, I can't, let Scooby-Dum show me up like that. I gotta match up to his courageousness. So he kind of like perks up and runs towards this figure coming around the corner and attacks it. And straight up attacks it, like traps it in a barrel. And Ma and Pa Skillet, they hear all this commotion. I guess they went back upstairs and they hear all of this commotion from the factory, and all of this chasing and probably like screaming from the teenagers, like running for their lives.
Yep.
And so they come back down like, what in the world is going on down here? And Shaggy explains that they think they may have actually just caught the Gator Ghoul, which would be like amazing, like 5 minutes, 5 minutes on the job. Yeah. And boom, we already got him. We're done. Yep. Pay up. Give us what little money you still have.
Yeah, seriously. Give us all the fritters you got. This is extra now. Stick up.
All the fritters.
Also, just I backtracking slightly to what you said of like, yeah, they are running for their lives. Like, what did happen to all the factory workers and like distributors and stuff? Like, the swamp is probably a great place to hide a body. Like, I bet it would decompose very quickly because it's so like moist out there. True. Like the ground is soft. You could like dig a grave easily. I'm concerned.
And I actually think that's part of why side tangent. But when I was reading about the Hokeefenokee, part of what makes it Blackwater is like the decomposing of like vegetation and stuff around there. So it's like, hey, maybe these dead bodies decomposing is making it even blacker in there. Ew. Yeah. Pa says that all of them disappeared, or like they ran off. Like, they ran off, aka the Gator Ghoul ate them, and their bones are sitting at the bottom of the swamp, right underneath your showboat.
Can I tangent your tangent really quick?
Please do. Yeah.
Do you know that once our high school rowing team found a dead body?
Yeah. Yes. It was in the water, and there was not in the water.
There were two different ones.
Yes. I think I know for a fact there was the not in the water one,
but there was also
would
one
have been terrifying.
Yeah, there was also one in the water once.
I
think it was either before our time or like we were inside that day.
Yeah.
Or something, but
I know the out of water one was before our time. Yes. I think it was maybe like a year or two before our time, but people on the team were still talking about it by the time that because how do you not? That's like very traumatizing. I know one time, I forget if this was when I was rowing or coaching, but there was a slaughterhouse along the Licking River, and on a rainy day, I shit you not, Grace, a pig floated by us on the river. I was like, that is fucking gross. The glassiest. It was so disgusting. It smelled so bad because that river was already so disgusting.
Yeah. I'm just like relating deeply to this swamp right now based on where we rode in high school, which as listeners are now hearing, was a fucking disgusting river. It was literal dead bodies in it.
Yes, animal and sometimes unfortunately human. We saw oh my God, so many. Sorry, I'm going into like 1,000-yard stare mode because I just remembered so many other things we saw in there. Thousands of condoms, needles, just wow. Cincinnati in northern Kentucky. Woo! It's a lovely place to visit, y'all. I swear.
And don't worry, this river we're talking about, it feeds directly into the Ohio River, which is a huge waterway in America. Don't worry about it. Anyways. Hokeefenokee. Let's get back to Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, so back to another dark, depressing body of water.
Filled with bodies,
Yes, filled with bodies, we assume, that have succumbed to the whims of the Gator Ghoul. So Ma and Pa Skillet, they get back down to the soda bottling factory to see what in the hell all this commotion is about with the teenagers. And as Shaggy's telling them, we think we got the Gator Ghoul. We won. We did it, Ma.
We did
it. She's like, the dust gets a chance to settle. And she's like, no, that's not the Gator Ghoul, kids. That's our dishwasher, Simon Stingy.
Also stingy.
Stingy, yes. They couldn't stick away from the punny names for too long. And you'll see, stingy is the exact proper way to describe this man. Because he is enraged and furious with these kids.
I mean, I would also
right, exactly. Like, let's be real. So like Shaggy is not offering to help him out of the barrel. So you see Simon like struggling to like get out of this ginormous barrel, and he lifts himself out. And as soon as he gets out, though, he lunges and reaches towards Scooby and like is threatening him, like, you need to tar and feather that dog, and you need to hang him. Yeah, like, so it's like, okay, dude, I get that you're angry, but you could have controlled those emotions a little bit better.
Yeah. Yep.
And so Fred is telling him like, hey, dude, back off. We apologize. Sorry that, Scooby did this. And Stingy just kind of runs off still like threatening Scooby as he's running away.
Angrily,
and so at this point, Ma and Pa Skillet are like, yeah, we're sorry about him. He's kind of like always been a really mean, old, grumpy man. So our bad for not kind of giving you a heads up that he was here.
Yeah.
But Fred then says like, well, are there any other employees that you think you should tell us about? Maybe them. Yeah. Or so that no one else sues us probably for
truly
battery and assault.
Yeah. We're gonna put our dogs down for attacking humans, etc., etc.
God, that'd be tragic.
Yep.
In Scooby-Doo.
Oh no.
And so Ma and Pa say that they actually only have one other employee who works for them, and her name is Alice Dovely, and she is their assistant and their bookkeeper, kind of like their receptionist. And we find out she kind of is like their adopted daughter. They describe her as being like the child that they were never able to have. I mentioned earlier the Skillets, they always wanted kids, but they couldn't have them. And they thought it'd be great to have people helping out around the restaurant. But one day Alice kind of walked into their lives and they hired her and brought her on and like took her under their wing. And Alice just really like found a home with the Skillet family. And so as Velma is asking if there's, anything special that they should know about Alice for their investigation, Pa goes on maybe a little too fondly about Alice.
Oh, no.
Like she's so sweet and kindly and has a heart of gold and she's just amazing. And Ma is standing right next to him and is like, dude, shut up. She like shushes him. Maybe for one, because he's coming off a little strong.
Yeah.
And two, because they hear that Alice Dovely is actually approaching them. And she's like, you're going to make us look fucking creepy. So tone down a little bit.
Chill, man. Yeah.
And so Alice walks up to the group and she introduces herself. And she's just like a nice looking lady, brown hair, pulled back and like glasses. That's
how you know she's
kind of younger.
The glasses.
She's
the smart one.
She's nice. She knows numbers and whatnot. And Pa is telling Alice how he was just telling the teens how Alice working for them has really helped save their business because she agreed to stay on for free after the Gator Ghoul attacks started happening. She's like, I can help you guys save some money. Just don't worry about paying me. I know times are tough. And, additionally, the Skillets share the information that Alice actually covered their most recent bank loan payment as well.
Wow.
So not only is she offering to work for free, but she's also like fronting money for them to maintain ownership of the Showboat restaurant. So very kind. And the whole gang at this point is like, very, very like enamored by this. Like, oh, she's such a sweetheart. Why are you so kind and nice? How cute. Well, if the options are between Alice and Simon, I guess we're gonna go investigate Simon then. So
also, I'm just like picturing like during this whole thing, Daphne is just like, what is a loan?
Do people usually get work or get paid to work?
Okay.
I thought that you just live life and money shows up.
Daphne's like not touching anything there, and it's just like, what is this you speak of?
A mortgage?
Mortgage. You just own it. You just
I've never heard such words.
You don't just
Eddie
own
buys everything for me.
Exactly.
The teens decide that they should, instead of continuing their investigation at the warehouse, they go to Simon Stingy's cabin, which just so happens to be like next door.
Oh, great.
Warehouse and the factory, or the Showboat restaurant, I mean. Yeah, so very, very convenient. His commute to work every day is probably non-stressful.
Yep.
And so they literally break in to Simon's house. They walk up there.
To this violent man's house.
This violent man, a violent man who had a reason to be angry.
Okay, that's
maybe
true.
he overdid it a bit, but yes. I mean, come on.
We would all be pissed. Yeah, that's a good point.
I didn't describe his appearance, but he's an older guy. He's not old, but like he's balding and he's kind of bigger, and it's late at night. He's working for a company that is failing. That's about to be out of business. He's probably like the only dishwasher in this massive place. I'm sure he doesn't have a lot of dishes to wash, but it's, it's stressful. And, it's the night shift, and then these random teenagers and their dog knock you over.
Yeah, a Great Dane attacks you.
Yeah, he had water and stuff with him when he got knocked over, so he all that spilled on him, and it's a mess. Yes, I would be pretty pissed off too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Want to tar and feather the dog? No, but would I obviously be angry? 100,000%.
For sure. That's the point.
So they literally, off of just this information alone about Simon, break into his private abode. Just
perfect.
Boom, walk on in. And after they break in, actually, interestingly enough, the teens find a heaping load of absolutely nothing. And it's very funny the way they find this whole bunch of nothing. They are all scattered throughout his house in different rooms, and it shows each one of them. Daphne is in a closet, just rummaging through shit. Yep. Nothing in here.
No Gator costume.
And Velma is she's by a fireplace or something, just looking around yeah, nothing suspicious here. And then it pans over to Fred, who is in maybe the dining room, and he's ooh, he's got a comic book with a picture of the Gator Ghoul on it. Suspicious? And the whole gang's just kind of nah. No. throw the comic book. All right, guys, let's go back to the Showboat restaurant. Yeah. So then they just leave. They just break into this guy's house. Rummage through all of his shit, find absolutely nothing, and then go right back to the place where they should have been investigating the entire time.
I'm also just picturing that they didn't shut the closet door, the comic book's on the ground.
It's folded, on the ground.
The front door is still open. They didn't clean. They didn't try to make it look
drag mud in. Yeah,
they did not cover their tracks.
They're the Skillets gave us a warrant to search wherever we want. That's how warrants work, right?
They're the judge of Hokeefenokee, aren't they?
The Skillets signed this piece of paper saying that I could break into your house, so that's what we did.
Chill.
I'm trying to save your job, dude. It's chill. It's all good.
Be cool, man.
So as they should have done a while ago, they return to the Showboat restaurant and they decide to split up and search every inch, because at this point they're well, this is all we got. We only got chased in the warehouse and we didn't find anything there. And Simon Stingy's house was a total dud. So Fred sends Velma and Daphne to look through cabins on one end, and sends Shaggy to go look on the deck, and just everyone breaking up. But as Shaggy is trying to open the door to get out onto the deck, the Gator Ghoul is standing right there in front of him, growling and everything. And the gang is just frozen in shock for a second, looking is this really happening?
What do we do now?
And Scooby-Doo chase ensues around the Showboat restaurant for a little bit.
Excellent.
But again, Scooby-Dum coming in clutch. He's able to tap the Gator Ghoul, tackle.
Yeah.
I kind of just
he's a good boy.
Both of those words. But yes, Dum is a very good boy, attacks and captures the Gator Ghoul. And the kids are excited, oh my God, we're really good at finishing these mysteries early. And so
do you want to replace Scooby-Doo? You're really good at this.
I know, right? Dum, you're awesome. No offense, Scooby-Doo, but you may want to just stay in Georgia. So they go to take the head of the costume off though, and they realize that it's actually a motorized suit and not actually a living being inside. So
interesting.
They're looking at this suit and inspecting it, and they notice that there's a label on the inside that says property of Beauregard Film Productions. And Velma, genius she is, and I guess pop culture aficionado that she is, it's oh, hey, that is the film company that produced a movie about the gator ghoul, or like a monster alligator in this swamp just last year. And so Daphne then makes a suggestion that maybe the gator ghoul is actually just a mechanical monster and not a person in a costume, to which Fred responds, we may have to put a video clip of this in there because it's like the weirdest line delivery that I've ever heard for Fred before. He responds to Daphne's suggestion that the gator ghoul is a mechanical monster by saying, "No way." Literally just like that.
What?
So it's like, it's somewhat disbelief, but it's also somewhat just like how dumb are you, Debbie? Yeah, it's no way. Like,
I can even picture him being that sassy. Yeah, as they're like standing over the mechanical gator. Yeah, like, I get it though, Fred.
Get it. So yeah, he like, it's almost like it was like a test of his faith. Like his whole, like you could see all of his priors like shattering. He was like, are they monsters or are they machines? Which one is it? So funny.
This is too much for Fred's like gonna like have a like full mental breakdown in that moment. Like a break with reality.
Crisis.
Yeah.
And so now all of them very confused, very shook about all of this, the monster / machine, the rise of the machines, apparently. Velma's suggesting that they should go to the old shack in the swamp where that movie was filmed the year before.
Oh, great.
And so they make their way to this shack that is, as per usual, entirely like a dilapidated shack just in the middle of the swamp, fog like covering the whole thing. Like you can hardly see it through the thick mist. And
I'm like somewhat giggling right now too, because it was like the movie set. Is it like, oh, the like, you know, people on a movie who like go and find the different places they're gonna film? Did they find the abandoned shack, or did they build it? Is this actually brand new, but they just built it to look completely like dilapidated, and they just kept it? They're like, it's too much to move.
And then, exactly, just left it after production. Like, well, there's no one else really in this old swamp. Yeah. So we're not hurting.
We're shaving down the cost of this film a little bit. I'm just gonna leave it.
And apparently, like, they left it in a hurry because the door was wide open when the teens got there. So, or maybe it's the favorite spot of like junkies and criminals in the area to like hide out. Who knows? So
I mean, it seems like a great spot.
Like, really, like an old shack in the middle of the swamp. Yeah, kind of. So really, the teens should be like approaching and entering with great caution.
Yes.
But no, they don't. They just walk right in. They don't like look around or shine any flashlights in to make sure that there's no murderers in there or anything.
I hate all of this.
I'll add that even though the door was wide open, this is like private property still. So
they're still
bringing another trespass here. So that's like 2 in an hour for these teens. We're adding another tally to that. And so when they enter this old shack, the first thing that they see is an old alligator costume like sitting right by the door. And it scares the shit out of Scooby. So he starts like running around the shack and bumps into a wall. And conveniently, a note falls off of a shelf that he like bumps into. And so Daphne, she picks up the note. And she first says that it's something written on a letterhead of a company called Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola, as I'll explain very briefly here, happens to be a very big local competitor to Fenokee Fizz, a soda owned by the Skillet family. And what at the top of the episode, I mentioned that the thing that makes Fenokee Fizz so special is that it complements the super spicy fritters because it kind of like balances the heat so your stomach doesn't like explode from how spicy the fritters are. And Coca-Cola couldn't quite figure out that exact same formula. So even though like their cola is good, it's not Fenokee Fizz good, especially like if you want to enjoy these very popular, very delicious fritters. So little background information there that will be important in the next few minutes going forward. So Daphne reads this note that is on the Cookie Cola letterhead, and it says, quote, "To AD, set up directors meeting for final decision on Gator matter, signed BB President," unquote. So very, very direct on the Gator matter. Like this is what board members talk about, actually. Oh man, we've got to get this Gator situation under control.
Suss this out, the Gator matter.
Yeah. And so knowing that they need to find more clues after reading this note, which again, the note is a clue in itself.
Yes,
because what is this doing here? But they're like, it's not enough.
Yeah.
But I think we're on to something here. So they decide to split back up. I guess they're kind of done with the shack, or they're not as invested in the shack anymore.
I'm also just picturing that it's like a one-room shack. Like they've now seen it all.
Honestly, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Like thinking back in my memory of what it looked like. Yeah, I didn't like really write down the interior description here, but I'm pretty sure they all remain in like the same area at the same time, the entire time. So they send Shaggy and the Scoobies back to the showboat, and then the other three actually stay there because as Shaggy and Scooby are leaving, Vilma notices a ripped up note on the floor. Ooh. And so Daphne's like, anytime someone rips something up, it's something they want to hide, which, I mean, yes, but not everything that wants to be hidden is also like malicious or nefarious.
Right. And also sometimes like I may have written like the crocodile matter and I was embarrassed. So I ripped the note up and started over again.
Sorry. I meant Gator. That's embarrassing. Yeah. You wrote it in pen.
Yeah.
You write it in pencil, so you can't erase it.
Yeah.
Or maybe like it's personally identifying information. Or
like it might be right now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe we'll see. But I mean, like, say it's like someone's social security number.
Right,
like,
yeah.
That's not malicious. That's just something I don't want people to see. So,
yeah, I'm just being smart.
Yeah, but whatever. Okay, Daphne, she's on to something here. Because
I mean, it's probably a good point in the scenario. You're in a murder shack in the middle of a murder swamp. So
with an alligator costume right next to you. So you're right. This has to be important in some way or another.
Here,
yes. Exactly. And yes, your assumption is correct. They begin to piece together the shreds. Velma, Daphne, and Fred do, while again, Shaggy and the Scoobies are back at the Showboat restaurant. Because the Scoobies, that should be a band name.
I bet
anyway,
it is.
Yeah. So obviously putting together this note is going to unravel the entire mystery. So those three are very invested. They're like, they look so cute. They're like toddlers when you're like putting together a puzzle. They're like all on the floor, like on their knees, like cradling their hands, looking like, oh, maybe it's very funny.
Also like this. I love
teamwork.
That. Just like moving the puzzle pieces around. Like,
literally, that's exactly what they're doing. So
in the murder shack, great.
In the murder shack, yes, having fun, doing a nice little family puzzle together. So back in the showboat, rather than searching for clues, we see that Shaggy is actually not quite yet. They're cooking, getting ready to eat. Okay. He is whipping up a batch of the famous super spicy funky fritters. No big deal. Just using Ma and Pa Skillet's kitchen, all of their cutlery and machinery, and their food and their ingredients and their electricity.
Water.
For their endless bills to pay. Exactly. Like I'm sure that Ma and Pa Skillet have that stuff to just give away on these kids. Whatever. Maybe they'll just take it out of their paycheck. We'll see. So Shaggy, he eats too many of these super spicy funky fritters, as I noted, that can kind of blow up your stomach. And he doesn't have any Fenokee Fizz with him to settle that spice. So he actually endures like a little bit of gastrointestinal distress for a bit. And you like hear him in the kitchen, like moaning, like, oh my God.
This is like a very realistic episode.
It is actually, again, why it's so iconic. Like, damn, we have all been Shaggy before. We've all eaten something too spicy or just like overdid it. Exactly. And then just had to like fetal position,
like
cry
floor.
Ourselves to sleep.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
And so the other three, they have now left the shack and they're arriving back at the Showboat restaurant, but they hear like Shaggy moaning inside.
So he's being murdered.
Yes, exactly. Fred thinks that the Gator Ghoul is in there like attacking him. And so they like bust in. And then of course I just see like Shaggy's left a mess in the kitchen.
Of course.
Like on the floor holding his stomach like in so much pain. And so Fred's like, dude, get it together. Like, I've got a plan. We're going to catch this dude. We got to get this shit cleaned up. You made a mess in here. And so as they're cleaning everything up, I don't remember how, but somehow Shaggy gets his feet stuck in a bowl of the fritter batter. I don't know what he does to cook. You know that phrase, like when something's really, really good, you say you put your foot in it.
No.
You've never heard that?
No.
Oh,
is that a phrase?
God. Yeah, people say that. Or it's like you put, you threw everything in there, but the kitchen's staying.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, yeah, man, you put your foot all in there. Man, maybe my grandmother was the only one who said that. No, God, I'm pretty sure other people say it, but.
Did your grandma put her feet in your food?
Hey, if she did.
It was good.
That shit was good.
All right.
My grandma could cook. But anyway, so as they're trying to pull Shaggy's feet out of this bowl of batter, like literally the whole gang is like pulling him and like half of them's pulling him. The other half's like holding him.
God, it's like cement.
And you just see it like stretching. Yeah, it's like wet cement. And Vilma's like, this shit is super elastic. What in the world?
Yeah.
And Fred immediately is like, oh, I just got a new plan on how we're going to catch the Gator Ghoul. So whatever plan he got there, saying he had it first, he's like, fuck that plan. This one is way better. Step one of Fred's plan. Well, so actually first they decide to just like have Shaggy take his shoes off. So they just leave his shoes. So he's like barefoot and they just leave his shoes in this bowl of fritter batter.
Hey, you're fine.
Like, yeah, you're fine. We'll figure that out later. But then step one of Fred's new plan is to get a big ass bowl or like pot of flour and he just like dumps it over Shaggy's head without warning or like announcement. So Shaggy is like, he's like standing around looking at how he doesn't have shoes on. And the next thing he knows, like flour is just like over his head.
Oh, this trip's
and
not
Shaggy
going well
is
for
like,
Shaggy.
Not at all. Gastrointestinal distress. He's tired.
He's probably like
lights in
his
eyes. Yeah, exactly. Now he doesn't have shoes on. It's a mess. And they're in a swamp too. Like that's not somewhere where you don't.
That's not relaxing.
Shoes.
Yeah.
And so Shaggy is like, "What the fuck, Fred? Why did you just dump this flour on me?" And Fred's like, "Oh no big deal. It's just to keep the fritter batter from sticking to you." And so then Fred covers himself, Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Dum in flour. And then he starts to pour a trail of batter through the restaurant or through the, through the kitchen, whatever. And so he then tells Shaggy and the Scoobies to go find the Gator Ghoul, like go out to the Showboat deck and just start like making some noise, get his attention, bring him in here. And then what'll happen is that when the Gator Ghoul runs on the batter, he'll get stuck and they'll be able to trap him. Exactly. But since all the boys are covered in flour, they will not get stuck because that's what happens in baking and cooking.
Wow. Fred is a little baker. He's a little chef.
Yeah. So he like sticks his finger. Fred sticks his finger or his hand in a bowl of the dough to show like, look, see, flour, batter, no sticky. We're good. And
Fred.
So Shaggy and Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Dum, they follow the plan. They go up on the Showboat deck and they start just like making a ruckus and getting the Gator Ghoul's attention. And of course, the Gator Ghoul chases them around the deck for a bit. They lead him into the kitchen and we see Velma and Fred and Daphne like hiding behind like a fritter making machine. And I just want to point out that at this point, Fred is no longer covered in flour. So he literally dumped flour on himself, changed clothes, showered, washed his hair,
did his hair,
a new ascot, did his hair, changed back into new clothes. And again, all that he did after dumping the flour on him was he just like stuck his finger.
He could have
just put his hand in flour. But no, he covered his entire body in flour just so he could dip one finger in to test to see that it works. And then he's like, yeah, I don't want to get chased by this thing.
Yeah, I'm not the chasey here.
I set the trap. I am not the bait. Okay. So he changed clothes and then started hiding with Velma and Daphne behind a fritter machine. And they're watching as Shaggy and the Scoobies lead the Gator Ghoul back into the kitchen. They're kind of like creeping around the machine looking. And this episode is full of funny ass lines, Grace. Let me tell you. Shaggy is running in. And remember, he's barefoot. He has just gone through, covered in flour, just gone through a bout of gastrointestinal distress. Probably like still hungry or tired or something because it's Shaggy and it's been a long day.
Yep.
And he's scared generally because he's being chased by a monster.
Makes sense.
And although he's athletic, he is still like running without shoes through like batter. So even the most athletic person may trip and fall.
Oh no.
So Shaggy, unfortunately, as he's running through the batter, he trips and lands face first, to which immediately Velma exclaims, dumb, dumb, dumb. Shaggy did it again.
What?
Quote unquote. How mean. I was watching this like,
this is like a behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. She was like hiding behind the machine, so I don't think Shaggy heard her, although she yelled it. Yeah, she yells this, and then guess what happens? Literally a millisecond after Shaggy trips, he gets right back up and keeps running, and the Gator Ghoul follows him onto the trail of batter and still gets stuck. So Shaggy tripping literally did not impact the plan whatsoever. And
Velma, I've never seen you run.
Exactly. Like
you scurried.
You don't run. Bait, Velma.
Yeah.
You know how she runs too, like with their hands up? Like she would totally trip. Because that's not aerodynamic whatsoever.
Yeah, and
she
like barefoot, no less, covered in flowers, probably some in his eyes. Again, like you said, all of these factors working against Shaggy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I feel change for Velma after that. I was like, exactly, like Velma, you actually you're a pretty mean person. That was not cool.
Yeah, that was not cool at all.
And again, for her to say like he did it again.
Yeah, damn.
When, like the plan still 100% worked. Like I cannot stress this enough how much his tripping did not impact the plan working. Like he tripped, they reacted, he got right back up, the Gator Ghoul still got stuck. Who was
the like writer in the writer's room this week who was having some problems at home? They're like, no way. Dumb. Like,
dumb. Shaggy did it again. Like he accidentally wrote like his brother's name in there or something, then erased it like, oh shit, I mean Shaggy. That's who I'm mad at right now.
You gotta leave those problems at home, man.
Someone was going through some stuff. Damn, they literally threw all of that in there just to like get an angry line out like that. None of that exchange had to be in there.
Truly.
So yes, that was funny. But anyway, so
horrible.
So now the Gator Ghoul though is trapped. They got him. Yes, they are ready to unveil who's under the mask because he's obviously stuck in this batter. Real quick, I'll go through the minimal clues and the minimal suspects that we've got here, but we've got them nonetheless. So the first clue was obviously the headless alligator suit or like the motorized mechanical suit that was left behind by the movie company. The second clue was the torn up piece of paper, which the teens have now revealed.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. I was going to be like, did they not figure that out?
So they got close to figuring it out before they left the Showboat restaurant, but you still don't figure out until they're like going through exactly all the clues. Because as per usual, Velma loves to like hide the ball. So she's just been sitting on all of these clues and this evidence. And she's like, okay, now I'll tell you guys. So the note is revealed to say, notice of termination from Coca-Cola Company to Alice Dovely.
Oh,
yes.
Shit.
So Shaggy, and then of course there was also that letter on the Coca-Cola letterhead that said like to AD. Yeah, set up a direct AD. Set up directors meeting on Gator Matter. Exactly, signed by the president.
think of initials when you read that, and I was like, Ma and Pa. Those
that's
are
not
initials.
AD. I mean, I guess I'm sure their real names aren't Ma and Pa,
no,
but
they are.
still, Skillet. They are Ma Skillet. That's on her birth certificate.
Yeah.
So Shaggy, he's laughing at Velma's theory that Miss Dudley is the Gator Ghoul. I think he's actually like kind of mad at Velma for shitting on him like that. So he's like, Velma, you idiot. Yeah, right. But unfortunately, well, I guess, sorry, I didn't really give you a chance.
Nope. As soon as you said notice of termination.
I know. Yeah. It's like, I can't really get through the clues without giving away who it is.
Yep.
And also, like, it clearly was not Simon Stingy. They found jack shit.
Yeah. Well, I will say also, though, before, which is why I wanted to ask if they put together that mystery letter, that ripped up letter, which, yes, once you read that, became obvious. But prior to that, I was going to be like, this could just be another fucking mechanical one, and like they still have not solved it.
You know, Grace, I think that would have made more sense, because I am going to tell you first. So I'm going to tell you why. Well, first, all right, let me just say they pull off the mask and it's revealed, obviously, it's Alice Dudley, and it's hilarious. Yes. She's like shamefully looking down at the floor like, oh, what have I done? They caught me. But also she's not a big lady, and she's in this massive alligator costume. It like comes up to her chin. You like just see her head poking out. She's like drowning in the suit. Yes. And she says an iteration of one of our absolute favorite lines, the classic line from Scooby-Doo. It would have been mine if it weren't for you nosy kids. I think this is the first episode I've done, where they say that. And so I got
they haven't said it in mine yet.
More iconicness.
Amazing.
Of this episode. Yes. Even though it's a very shoddy crime and like motive, which I'm about to get into. But so Velma and the gang and all of them are like, all right, let's piece together, why she did this. Let's tell the Skillets what's going on, because the Skillets are obviously very freaking confused.
Yeah, like heartbroken.
Our adopted essentially daughter who helped save our business. It turns out she's the one who was also trying to ruin our business and like possibly killing all of our distributors.
Yeah, we still have not answered that question.
At least disappearing them, if nothing else. And so Velma, she goes through the clues, or the first clue, saying that pink slip that they pieced together, that note, it fired Miss Dudley from her job as secretary to the president of Cookie-Cola. And Miss Dudley, apparently, so while she was working there, she had confidential information that Cookie-Cola was about to buy Pa Skillet's secret Fenokee Fizz formula.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
plot thickens like that batter.
Right. So Miss Dudley came up with a 2 birds, 1 stone plan. She was going to get revenge on Cookie-Cola for firing her, 1. And 2, she was going to ruin Ma and Pa Skillet's restaurant so she could foreclose on her loan to them, thus owning Fenokee Fizz and selling the secret formula to Cookie-Cola for a fortune. Honestly, I don't
really add up.
know how this is getting revenge on Cookie-Cola.
Yeah,
we'll get into that. And I don't think that her fronting them a one-time loan payment
would give her the ownership
loaning them
of
a one-time. Yeah, like she would not have a primary interest in the property also, if they were foreclosed on because she fronted them 1 month's payment. And she would not necessarily, I don't think, she wouldn't be the owner of the intellectual property behind the soda formula
and
because she owns the restaurant. Like those are 2 different types of property that are not, maybe one is collateral for the other. That's actually kind of possible. But
I also can't imagine that like it was an official loan through a bank. She probably wrote a check once and was like, pay me back, thanks. Where's the contract?
That is I'm not going to scroll back up to find it because then I'll get lost. But Ma does say something along those lines. Like she doesn't say that like Alice opened up a whole new, like she started a mortgage or whatever just for 1 month for the Skillets. Like, no, to me, it sounded like she just like you said, wrote them a check or gave them some cash. Like, hey, here you go.
Yeah.
So,
There's no legal binding to this.
None.
That they just borrowed money that if they feel like it, they should pay back.
If anything, they owe her that 1 month's installment.
Yeah, that's it.
But I don't think that if the bank forecloses, that they're like, oh, Alice, you paid the last month, so you're the primary interest holder in this property. So
I don't think like JP Morgan Chase Bank will be like, oh, we foreclosed on them. Yes, your $330 cash means you own it. No, bitch, we own it now.
Yeah, I think if anything, it would actually just make her credit go down lower.
Yeah, you don't want your name attached to that.
So clearly she was fired from Cookie Cola because she was a very bad secretary because she doesn't understand how any of this stuff works.
Yeah.
So just as we are visibly confused by this plot, the Skillets were also still very visibly confused by this apparent secret double life of Alice Duffy's and this whole conspiracy to take down their business.
Yeah, so what did they ever do to her?
Yeah, and I'm gonna get into that in just a second, but until then, Pa, like, he's still like, none of this makes sense, but I'll be danged. Ma, call the sheriff. Like, he literally says, I'll be danged. Call the sheriff. He's like, I don't fucking know what's going on here, but I guess we need to call the sheriff because it seems she's committed some crimes. Yes. And that's it. That's the episode. We don't see the sheriff come, but obviously we assume that they come shortly after. And so I realize that, as we have discussed here too, that obviously this plot missing a lot to be desired.
Yeah, there's some loopholes in her thinking.
Yes, and you'll notice, I mean, I tried to kind of get through that episode a little quickly because I was like, I need to save some time at the end of this so that I can do one of my absolute favorite things, wildly speculate about
That's
what
my most marketable skill.
Exactly. Put it on all my resumes. Weird. I can't seem to get hired anywhere. So look, we've got to come up with more of a reason for Alice Dudley's motive here, because I don't think, like, what could drive someone who, you know, essentially is brought in by this family, like an adopted daughter to them. She's known them for years. Like, they spent holidays together. They taught her everything about the restaurant business and just really, really helped bring her up in the world and raised her. And so you just have to wonder what would drive her to work for their biggest known competitor.
Right.
What would do that? And then you have to ask as well, what did the Skillets do? Because she knew that they were, you know, competitors with Cookie Cola. Yeah. So it's one thing to go and work for the competitor, but then to get on board with this Gator Ghoul thing to drive them out of business. So we remember, obviously, that the Fenokee Fizz, it's better than Cookie Cola because it, like, you know, it complements the fritters, right? Cookie Cola, they would do anything to get that formula because they know as long as the fritters are around, they're always going to be second to Fenokee Fizz. You can't get rid of the fritters. Those are too popular, but you can buy the other company and then get their formula. So they're like, all right, we've got to do whatever we can do to get this formula. I think they sent some corporate spies into the area to figure out who was close to the Skillet family. They bribed Alice Dudley. Perhaps the president of Cookie Cola pretended to love Alice Dudley, took her in, wined and dined her, made her think she could have anything in the world, made her feel like she was everything in the world. Then he started to tell her about this great plan to try to acquire Fenokee Fizz from her essentially parents. And he made it seem innocuous, you know. Oh, it's fine. It's for the good of the community. Skillets can be rich if we do this. But then as the plan started coming together, Alice got cold feet. And she couldn't quite go through with it. She was getting nervous. She was starting to get scared of, like, talking to the Skillets because she thought they would catch on to her.
Her family.
Right? Yeah. And so all of these nerves, it kind of caused her to slip up on the job a couple of times. And maybe the skillets got a little mad at her because times were already rough, things are hard, and they can't afford any extra mishaps on the job.
Makes sense.
So Alice took these mishaps a little too personally, probably under all the stress of living this double life. And, these mishaps then carried into her cookie cola job. She was getting cold feet there. She was starting to mess up work, and it was getting too close to too messy. So they fired her. Now, I'm going to guess that they probably threatened her with like non-disclosure agreements and a bunch of lawsuits.
Definitely a lot of non-competes going on.
Like, you have to stay quiet. You can't tell anyone about this. And so she lost the love of her life and her boss. And she lost her job, and she thinks the skillets are angry at her for messing up at work. And so she goes into a spiral. She's like wandering through the swamps late at night, every night, trying to figure out what to do.
How to piece her life back together.
Exactly, piece by piece. And she comes across this old shack in the middle of the swamp where the film was filmed. And she sees an alligator costume, and she's like, oh my God, I can beat Cookie Cola to their own plan. I'm going to put on this alligator costume. I'm going to shut down the Skillets restaurant because apparently they hate me now for messing up at work. So I'm going to pretend to front them money. I'm going to own all of their shit when they foreclose. And then I'm going to jack up the price of that Fenokee Fizz recipe.
So
when
that's
the
revenge.
Company, that's got to be it. I literally can't think of any other reason why someone would be driven to like totally ruin the lives of like their adopted parents like that. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, maybe if there's any other explanations that you have, any other reasons why Alice Dudley like totally snapped? I have no idea, but I wish that the writers of that episode would have added maybe something a little salacious like that in there. Like she makes a lot of very unreasonable decisions as the Gator Ghoul, and so there had to be something absolutely bonkers, bananas crazy to like drive her over the edge and start acting this way.
Yeah, well, I love that theory really deeply because, she's getting handwritten notes from the president of Cookie Cola. So there's clearly a close relationship there going on. Yes. Like we said before, the full reveal of like, or our wild speculation portion here is that, why would her doing this be any type of revenge? But that your theory makes sense of like, she's going to make sure that they can't sell it, et cetera, et cetera. But also another loophole potentially would be like, okay, if Cookie Cola was already in talks with Pa, all of a sudden Pa's business is failing. That means he's more desperate to get the money from Cookie Cola. So he's more likely to sell the recipe as soon as possible to save his restaurant. Like,
true.
She's also pushing him to desperation. But I think your take that she just had like a full on snap again, like break with reality moment that we thought Fred was going to have earlier. I think this is her moment of that. Way. I think this is her moment of that because clearly she did not think these things through, nor did she like, it's the classic, like, it's always always just tell the truth type of thing. That's how you clear up miscommunications. Just tell the truth. She just kept digging her swampy hole.
Exactly.
Over and over again.
Digging her grave in the swamp even deeper and deeper. Yeah. Because, I mean, my theory here, my embellishments of the story are not to say that it makes her plan make any more sense. Like it still makes zero sense whatsoever.
It was still a bad plan.
Exactly. It just gives her like some kind of justification for like a motive, because otherwise it's really comes out of nowhere.
Truly.
Which is why Shaggy is in such, and why the Skillets. Everyone besides Velma and Fred is just like visibly confused. Like even me as I was watching, like, what?
Well, and I bet not only did Cookie Cola, I'm sure, like hold, make her signed NDAs and, non-competitive agreements and all that kind of stuff. But like, I also bet that the president was probably ready to blackmail her on their relationship at any point of like, because here's the thing, like he's going to pull the power move. He was probably like grooming her. And like the fact, like technically in an actual like ethical like HR investigation into this, like because he is the person of power is like the wrongdoer here.
Yes.
But because I'm assuming he's a rich white man, he would not get in trouble, but she would. And so he probably could hold that over her as well.
And
so
with
then
the power of corporate lawyers versus this lady who lives with a family that has a failing restaurant. In a swamp,
near the snake farm.
In a gristmill. Like, not much happening economically on that end of town.
Right, exactly. So like what other, again, beyond obviously just like coming clean to the skillets and stuff, like her vision, like her desperation of like, oh God, on either end, I'm betraying them and they also are betraying me. Oh God, what do I do? What do I do?
Spiral.
Yep.
Led to a spiral.
Wow.
Exactly.
An intense spiral. Great work.
Intense. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, definitely. So one of my favorite episodes, I was super excited to do this one, actually, mostly because I really love Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure the audience likes him too. Like, it's probably like 50-50 because sometimes they overdo his dim-witted sometimes, but it is like a really good balance with the rest of the gang.
Yeah.
So it's cute. And he also doesn't like pop up often. So I think that's the difference between Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. Scrappy was in so many episodes. He like had his own show.
Yep.
Whereas Scooby-Doo pops up in like maybe 4 episodes.
And it makes sense when he pops up. Like they came to his home in this one. Like
yes, exactly.
There's a clear line of why he's there.
And in the other episodes after this, he kind of is just like joining them randomly. So this is the one that makes the most sense, where they're like going to his home and then they like bring him back as a recurring character, but it's only like 4, maybe 5 or something times.
It's a light
and then
touch.
He was in another Scooby-Doo show that I actually never ever have watched called Laugh Olympics. I don't know if you've heard of this. Yeah, I've never watched it. Maybe one day I will, but apparently he was in a lot of that show, but it seems like it was a lot lesser watched by people. So maybe also like there was no oversaturation of Scooby-Doo
within
for the audience.
Mystery Inc. situation.
Unlike there was for Scrappy. Yeah.
Yes,
so
for sure.
Iconic episode. I love it. Everyone go give it a watch. Great monster.
What season and episode was that again?
So season 1, episode 3 of the Scooby-Doo show.
Amazing.
September 1976 on ABC.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Well, great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very excited to go back and watch this one. Because all the moments you're describing,
psychoanalyze Alice Dovely.
Yeah, I mean that's like I'll see if I come up with any different theories, but I'm sticking with yours, I think. And I guess that's all we got for right now.
Yeah, we took you guys back to the swamp. We'll see where we go next time. We're winding down again, as we mentioned earlier, winding down on our Scooby-Doo analysis here and getting ready to gear up for something new.
Something else.
We're not quite ready to totally wind down yet. We are winding down, but we're not ready to finish. We got a couple more for you.
Yeah, two more Scoobs for now. Again, we'll come back. We got so much Scooby to cover. But between now and next week, I hope that you know what, go to your favorite diner and tell like your favorite waiter or waitress there about us. Be like order some fritters, get that fave on the side. And tell them about this show. Tell him, her, or they to look it up, to check it out. Leave them a really nice tip also.
Yes.
Yeah. Like maybe double the usual tip, because they are your favorite. You love this little local shop. You don't want your mom and pa shop to go out of business. Who else should they tell?
I guess if you're at the diner, just also tell the chef, a la, the Skillet family, if they're back there whipping up your fritters. Although I guess maybe they don't want you in the kitchen. I don't know. Ask if the waiter or waitress can like add a little note for the kitchen back there that just says, "Watch Saturday Morning Mysteries on YouTube. Listen on Spotify, Amazon podcast, anywhere else you listen to a podcast." Yes. And also, I'll take 2 eggs and bacon, please.
You know how they like it. It's the usual. Okay, perfect. Well, enjoy that meal, everyone, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.